Simple woman walks into a millionaire CEO's office, clutching nothing but a resume. No appointment, no introduction, just a name she quietly passed to the front desk. Within minutes, the CEO had stopped an entire board meeting, walked out of his glass tower, and asked to see her face to face, and when she finally spoke, it wasn't a pitch or a request. It was a single sentence that brought him to tears. Before we reveal the full story, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments below where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. She walked into the lobby like someone who'd taken a wrong turn but was too polite to ask for directions. Anna Langley didn't belong in a place like Wallace Systems HQ. Hell, she didn't even try to. There she stood in the marble and glass cathedral of corporate ambition, wearing a navy blouse that had seen better decades, not from some designer's vintage collection, just cotton that had softened with too many trips through an ancient washing machine. Her slacks were pressed but faded at the knees. Canvas flats peeked out from the hem, the kind with thin rubber soles that squeaked slightly on polished floors. And clutched in her hands like a prayer book was a single resume in a plastic sleeve, creased at the corners from being carried in too many tote bags through too many doors that had already closed before she reached them. The building around hummed with the particular frequency of serious money. 47 stories of glass and steel reaching toward a sky that looked rented by the hour. The lobby smelled like eucalyptus and ambition, that scent they pump through vents to make everyone feel like they're breathing success. Heels clicked past in staccato rhythms. Cufflinks caught the light. Voices carried the practiced confidence of people who'd never had to wonder if their bank account would cover lunch. Anna just stood there, taking it all in with the quiet attention of someone who'd learned to read rooms before entering them. The receptionist barely glanced up when Anna approached the marble desk that looked like it could house a small family. "Hi," Anna said, voice soft enough that the woman had to stop typing to hear her. "I was hoping to speak with someone from Human Resources." The receptionist's smile was the kind they teach in training videos, bright, brief, and completely hollow. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I brought my resume." Anna held up the plastic sleeve like it might explain everything. The smile tightened. "We don't accept walk-ins. You'll need to apply through our online portal at careers, wallacesystems.com. Anna nodded patiently. "I tried that. The system said the position was already filled, but I thought maybe if I brought this in person." "What position were you applying for?" The receptionist's fingers moved across her tablet with the efficiency of someone who'd had this conversation before. "Data operations assistant, or really anything entry-level." The woman's eyebrows lifted like Anna had just asked to pilot a space shuttle. "Operations requires a minimum of 3 industry certifications and 5 years of experience. Do you have those qualifications?" Anna hesitated. "Not the certificates, but I do have—" "I'm sorry." The receptionist's voice carried the finality of doors closing. "Everything must go through the digital application process. It's company policy." Behind Anna, the lobby pulsed with motion. A man in a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent strode past, laughing into his Bluetooth earpiece about golf games and stock options. 2 women in matching blazers discussed quarterly projections while balancing coffees that cost more than Anna's weekly grocery budget. Nobody looked at her. Nobody had to. She found a chair in the corner, one of those modern torture devices designed to look impressive while ensuring visitors didn't get too comfortable. The leather was cold against her back. Her resume rested in her lap like a sleeping cat. And Anna did what she'd learned to do in 47 years of life. She waited. An hour passed like winter honey. Security guards walked by twice, their eyes sliding over her without stopping. Executives glided past in clusters, their conversations Full of acronyms and inside jokes, the receptionist fielded calls with the mechanical precision of someone who'd perfected the art of sounding helpful while helping no one. Anna didn't fidget, didn't check her phone. She'd left it in the car to save battery. Just sat with her hands folded, watching the dance of corporate life unfold around her like she was studying a foreign film without subtitles. Then something shifted. Maybe it was the way the afternoon light slanted through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Maybe it was the memory of a voice that used to tell her, "Sometimes you gotta make your own luck, honey." Or maybe it was just the simple knowledge that she'd driven too far and waited too long to leave with nothing. Anna stood, walked back to the reception desk. The woman looked up with a sigh that could have powered a small wind turbine. "Ma'am, I really can't." "Just tell Mr. Wallace," Anna said, her voice quiet but steady as morning rain, "that I once worked with someone named Evelyn." The receptionist blinked. "I'm sorry, who?" "Evelyn Wallace. I worked beside her at Ryland Textiles. We stitched seams together on the night shift." "Is this some kind of—" The woman's voice trailed off, confusion creeping across her face. "No." "Oh, games," Anna said gently. "I'm not asking for anything special, just tell him Anna Langley was here, that I knew Evelyn. That's all." She placed her resume on the marble counter one more time, stepped back to her chair, and settled in to wait. Some more. The receptionist stared at the plastic sleeve like it might bite her. Behind the desk, the machinery of corporate efficiency continued its relentless hum. Phones rang, emails pinged. Decisions got made about things that would never touch Anna's life. But upstairs, in a corner office with a view that stretched in 3 counties, someone was about to hear a name that would stop his world completely, a name he hadn't heard spoken aloud in 27 years, a name that would change everything. It was Madison who carried the message upward. 25 years. Old sharp as winter air, with the kind of ambition that woke up before her alarm clock. She'd clawed her way from answering phones to executive assistant in 6 months, and she wasn't about to stumble over some random walk-in. But when she heard the name, Evelyn Wallace, something cold ran down her spine. She'd been at Wallace Systems long enough to know the unofficial history. The stories whispered in break rooms about where Daniel Wallace came from, how his mother had worked 2 jobs to keep him in school, how she died in a car accident 3 months before his first company went public, how he'd never spoken about her in any interview, any profile, any corporate biography. But Evelyn Wallace wasn't in the computer system, wasn't listed on any board documentation, wasn't mentioned in the official company narrative at all, which meant either this woman in the lobby was running some kind of elaborate con, or she knew something that mattered. Madison didn't call HR, didn't consult the protocol manual. She took the elevator to the 47th floor and knocked on the corner office door. Daniel Wallace was mid-sentence on a conference call about third-quarter projections when Madison entered, her face carrying the particular expression of someone about to drop a small bomb. He held up one finger. "Wait," then saw her eyes. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, cutting off 3 VPs mid-sentence. "There's a woman downstairs," Madison said without preamble. "Been waiting for 2 hours. Says she knew your mother. Says they worked together at some textile place." The office went silent, except for the whisper of air conditioning and the distant hum of traffic 47 floors below. Daniel's face didn't change. Not exactly, but something behind his eyes shifted, like a curtain being pulled back from a window that had been dark for years. "She's still there?" he asked, sitting quietly. "Hasn't moved except to use the bathroom once." He stood up from his desk, a slab of reclaimed wood that could have housed a small aircraft, and looked out at the city sprawling below. Somewhere in that maze of steel and glass, his mother had spent her last years cleaning offices after her. Regular shift ended. Somewhere out there, she'd driven home on winter nights, too tired to take off her work shoes. What's her name? Anna Langley. He didn't recognize it, But that didn't mean anything. His mother had worked a dozen different jobs, known hundreds of people whose names had never made it into dinner conversation. "Bring her up," he said. Madison hesitated. "Do you want me to?" "Now." The elevator ride from the marble lobby to the executive floor took 43 seconds. Anna spent them looking at her reflection in the polished steel doors, checking that her collar wasn't crooked, that her hair hadn't escaped its careful bun. Madison stood beside her, stealing glances at this woman who'd somehow managed to stop Daniel Wallace mid-meeting. The doors opened onto a world of white marble and subtle lighting where even the air felt expensive. Anna stepped out like someone entering a museum, careful, respectful, slightly awed. Daniel's office was larger than Anna's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a living painting, furniture that looked more like sculpture, a conference table that could seat 12, and at the far end, behind a desk that belonged in a design magazine, stood a man who looked exactly like someone who could buy and sell small countries before lunch. But his eyes carried something Anna recognized. The same careful attention she'd seen in his mother's face 27 years ago, when Evelyn would watch the younger workers fumble with their machines, waiting for the right moment to offer help. They looked at each other across the expanse of marble and privilege. "You knew my mother?" Daniel asked. Anna nodded. "Evelyn Wallace, night shift at Rillin Textiles. I worked the station beside hers for 2 years. Daniel didn't speak, didn't move, just stood there like someone trying to remember how to breathe. Anna took a small step forward. "She taught me to write my name, and it saved my life." The sentence hung in the air between them, like a bridge neither of them had expected to cross. Daniel sat down hard in the nearest chair, a $7,000 piece of Danish design that suddenly felt like a folding chair. At a church social, his throat worked, his eyes went bright. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "She never told me," he whispered. "She wouldn't have," Anna said gently. "That wasn't her way." Anna moved to the chair across from him, white leather that whispered when she sat, and folded her hands in her lap, like she was settling in for evening prayers. "I couldn't read when I started at Rylin," she said. "Not really. I could fake it most of the time, but writing, that was different. I used to sign things with just a line, hope nobody would notice." Daniel leaned forward, his $50,000 education suddenly feeling very small. "She'd leave notes in my locker," Anna continued, "little scraps of paper with letters on them, ANNA written over and over. She'd make me copy them during break, made me spell it until my fingers knew the shape of it." "She loved to write," Daniel said, his voice thick. "Always had a notebook, always making lists." Anna smiled. She said, "Don't let your hands get smart if your head stays empty." That's why she made me practice. Said there'd come a day when knowing how to spell my own name would matter more than I could imagine. When was that? 2 years later. I applied for a warehouse supervisor position. The form required a signature, not a mark, but an actual signature. If I hadn't been able to write Anna Langley that day, I wouldn't have gotten the job. That promotion changed everything, led to better jobs, better opportunities, eventually led me here. Daniel was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I remember her handwriting. I still have some of her notes." "Then you know what matters," Anna said. "She talked about you every night. Said you were going to do something important. Said you'd never forget where you came from." Daniel looked down at his hands, soft, uncalloused, manicured. "I almost did." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of quiet that happens between people who understand each other without explanation. Finally, Daniel straightened up. "Why are you here, Anna?" "I need work," she said simply. "I've been looking for months. Nothing fancy, just something steady. I saw your..." Company name in a job listing and remembered, this is the place Evelyn used to mention. The place she was so proud of. I thought maybe what? Anna shrugged. Maybe the son of Evelyn Wallace would give someone like me a chance. Daniel stood up, walked to his window, looked out at the city his success had helped reshape. Somewhere down there, people were struggling the way his mother had struggled, the way Anna was struggling now. He turned back to her. What kind of work are you looking for? Anything. Data entry, filing, cleaning. I'm not picky. I just need to be useful. What's your background? Anna reached for her resume, still clutched in its plastic sleeve. Warehouse work mostly. Some administrative assistant experience. I'm good with organizing, good with people. I learn fast and I show up. Daniel took the paper but didn't look at it. Anna, I can offer you any position in this company, any salary you want. Just say the word. Anna shook her head. I don't want charity. I want to earn my place. This isn't charity, this is justice. My mother helped you write your name. Maybe it's time someone returned the favor. Anna looked at him for a long moment. What do you mean? Daniel smiled for the first time since she'd walked in. I mean, maybe you're here to teach us how to write ours. The rest happened faster than weather changing. Daniel opened his office. Dugda to find Madison and half the executive floor pretending not to hover. Their faces wore the expressions of people who'd witnessed something unprecedented. Their CEO, the man who cancelled board meetings for missing decimal points, had just spent 40 minutes with a woman in canvas shoes. Madison, Daniel said, his voice carrying a quiet authority that made everyone stop pretending to work. Find Anna a position, something in operations to start, whatever salary she requests. Madison blinked. Sir, we don't have any current openings. We do now, Daniel said, and Madison. She reports directly to me. No committees, no approvals, no red tape. If Anna Langley needs something, she gets it. Anna stood up, still holding her resume. Mr. Wallace, I appreciate this, but I don't need special treatment. You're not getting special treatment, he said. You're getting what my mother would have given you if she'd been sitting in my chair. A chance to show what you can do. He turned to the gathered staff, who were no longer pretending not to listen. This is Anna Langley. She once worked beside my mother. Treat her with the respect that deserves. Nobody asked questions. Nobody demanded explanations. Daniel Wallace had built his reputation on reading people correctly, on making decisions that seemed crazy until they proved brilliant. If he said this quiet woman in faded slacks mattered, then she mattered. Anna started the following Monday. They gave her a desk on the 7th floor in operation support. Nothing fancy, just a grey metal surface with a computer that wheezed when it booted up and a phone that rang too loudly. The kind of workspace designed for people who did necessary but invisible work, and Anna loved it. She arrived 15 minutes early each day, not to impress anyone, but because that's what you did when someone gave you a chance. She brought her lunch in a brown bag, usually a sandwich and an apple, sometimes a thermos of soup her neighbor had made too much of. She wore the same rotation of neat blouses and practical slacks, always with a cardigan that had pockets deep enough for the small notebook where she wrote down everything she needed to remember. At first, people weren't sure what to make of her. She didn't participate in office gossip, didn't check social media at her desk. When someone asked how she'd gotten hired, she just said, "I knew someone who knew someone," and changed the subject. But then, small things started happening. The perpetually broken copier on the 7th floor suddenly worked perfectly. Anna had stayed late one night and figured out that the paper tray wasn't quite aligned. Fixed it with a library card and some patient adjusting. The shared file system that had been a chaotic mess for months became organized overnight. Anna had spent a weekend reorganizing it because she couldn't find anything and figured others probably couldn't either. An intern who'd been struggling with a presentation found her draft returned to her inbox with gentle suggestions written in the margins and a sticky note that said, "You're almost there. Just trust yourself a little more." Word traveled the way it does in offices, quietly, through coffee conversations and bathroom encounters. The new woman on 7 wasn't just competent. She was the kind of person who made everything around her work better. Daniel started stopping, by more frequently than protocol required, never for long, never with fanfare. He'd just appear at her desk, usually when the floor was busy enough that his presence didn't trigger a company-wide panic. "How's it going?" he'd ask. "It's going," Anna would reply, the same way every time. It became their ritual. One afternoon, he found her in the break room with Miranda, a graphic design intern who looked like she'd been crying. Anna was making 2 cups of coffee, one for herself, one for the girl, while listening with the kind of attention most people reserved for life-or-death conversations. Daniel paused outside the door, not wanting to interrupt. "I just don't know how to explain it to them," Miranda was saying. "I can see what it should look like in my head, but when I try to present it, everything comes out wrong." Anna handed her the coffee mug, chipped ceramic with a company logo from 3 mergers. "Ago, so don't explain it first. Show them what you see, then tell them why it matters, in that order." "You think that'll work?" "Most things do, when you stop trying to impress people and start trying to help them." The following week, Miranda's presentation was accepted by the creative team without revision. When someone asked her what had changed, she said, "I got advice from the woman on 7, the one who knew the CEO's mum, because by then that's how Anna was known throughout the building. Not as Daniel's charity case or his mystery hire, but as the woman who'd known Evelyn Wallace, who'd worked beside her in a textile factory where the air was thick with cotton dust and the shifts lasted longer than most people's entire workdays." Stories began to circulate about how Anna had taught herself computers in her 50s using library books and YouTube videos, about how she'd raised her neighbors' kids when their mother got sick, about how she could fix almost anything with patience and the right tools. 3 months in, Daniel called her into his office. "We're starting a mentorship program," he said without preamble. "Internal development, skill building, helping people move up who might otherwise get overlooked. I'd like you to run it." Anna blinked. "I'm not management material." "You're exactly management material. You're just not corporate material. There's a difference. I don't know how to run programs. You know how to help people. The rest we can figure out." Anna was quiet for a moment, looking out at the city beyond his windows. Somewhere out there, people were struggling the way she'd struggled, looking for chances the way she'd looked for a chance. "What would you want me to do?" "Start with the fundamentals. Resume writing, interview skills, professional communication, the things people need but don't always know how to ask for." Anna nodded slowly. "Like spelling your own name?" "Exactly like that." The program started small. Lunch sessions in conference rooms, voluntary attendance, word-of-mouth promotion. Anna didn't advertise, didn't send company-wide emails. Just mentioned to a few people that she'd be available if anyone wanted help with professional development. 12 people showed up to the first session. By the end of the month, they had to move to a larger room. Anna never lectured, never stood at the front of the room with PowerPoints and handouts. She just sat with people one at a time, the way Evelyn had sat with her. Listened to their goals, looked at their resumes, helped them find the words to describe what they could do. She taught a mail clerk how to write a cover letter that got him an interview for an administrative position. Helped a custodian realize that his organizational skills and attention to detail qualified him for facilities management roles. Showed a cafeteria worker how her customer service experience translated into valuable business skills. One evening, a young man approached her after a session, resume clutched in hands that shook slightly. "I don't really have much experience," he said. "Dropped out of high school, worked retail mostly. But I want something better." Anna looked at his resume. Half A page of retail jobs and a few community college courses he'd started, but never finished. "Tell me about the retail work," she said. "Just sales, nothing important. How long were you there?" 4 years. Same store. Anna circled that on his resume. 4 years is important. That's reliability. That's commitment. Did you train new employees? Sometimes. That's leadership. Did you handle difficult customers? All the time. That's problem solving under pressure. Did you work different shifts, holidays, busy seasons? Yeah, but that's adaptability and dedication. Anna looked up at him. You don't have little experience. You just don't know how to talk about what you have. 3 weeks later, he got hired as a junior coordinator at a logistics company. By winter, Anna's informal mentorship had become the Evelyn Project, officially sanctioned, company-funded, with Anna as its director, not because she'd asked for the promotion, but because Daniel had watched her work and realized she was already doing the job. The program expanded beyond resume. Help. They added basic computer skills classes, professional communication workshops, financial literacy sessions. Anna recruited volunteers from across the company, people who'd been in her sessions and wanted to pay it forward. She still sat at the same grey desk on the 7th floor, still brought her lunch in a brown bag, still wore cardigans with deep pockets. But now people sought her out for advice on everything from career changes to difficult conversations with supervisors. The company gala that year was held in the ballroom of a downtown hotel, all crystal chandeliers and waiters in white gloves. Anna almost didn't go. She had nothing appropriate to wear and felt uncomfortable at formal events, but Daniel had quietly mentioned that her presence would mean something to the people she'd been working with. She wore a navy dress she'd bought for her nephew's wedding 3 years earlier. Low heels that were sensible rather than stylish. A small purse instead of her usual tote bag. When she walked into the ballroom, something unexpected happened. People noticed her, not with the polite indifference she was used to, but with genuine warmth. Interns waved from their tables. The man she'd helped get the logistics job came over to thank her again. Miranda, the graphic designer, introduced Anna to her parents as the person who saved my career. Daniel took the stage after dinner, as he did every year. But this time, his speech was different. "This company has grown because of the people in this room," he said. "But growth isn't just about revenue or market share. It's about understanding that potential exists in places we don't always think to look." He paused, his eyes finding Anna's table near the back. "This year, we started the Evelyn Project, named after my mother, who believed that everyone deserved a chance to write their own story. We started it because someone walked into our lobby with a resume and reminded me what really matters." The tired spotlight found Anna, who looked slightly startled but didn't duck away from the attention. "Anna Langley," Daniel continued, "has helped dozens of our colleagues discover abilities they didn't know they had. She's done it the way my mother would. Have one person at a time, with patience and kindness, and the belief that everyone has something valuable to contribute." The applause started slowly, then built. Not the polite clapping of a corporate audience, but the genuine appreciation of people whose lives had been touched by what Anna was quietly building. When the lights came back up, Anna found herself surrounded by colleagues who wanted to share their stories, how her advice had helped them, how the program had changed their trajectory, how they'd never really believed they could advance until she showed them they already had everything they needed. Later, as the evening wound down, Daniel found her by the coat check. "You look like you're thinking about something," he said. Anna smiled. "I was thinking about your mother, about what she'd say if she could see this." "What do you think she'd say?" Anna considered this. "I think she'd say you finally figured out how to spell your name right." Daniel laughed, the first real laugh he'd managed all evening. "And what about you? What would she say about you?" Anna looked back at the ballroom, where people were still talking about the program, still making plans to help each other grow. I think she'd say I finally learned to use what she taught me. Which was that teaching someone to write their name isn't about the letters. It's about helping them believe they have something worth signing. 2 years later, the Evelyn Project had expanded to include partnerships with community colleges and local non-profits. Anna's title had changed to Director of Professional Development, though she still preferred when people just called her Anna. She still worked from the same desk on the 7th floor, still brought her lunch in a brown bag, still wore cardigans, with deep pockets full of pens and small notebooks. But now that desk was a destination, a place where people came when they needed help seeing themselves clearly, when they wanted to understand that their experience mattered, their potential was real, and their stories were worth telling. One morning, a young woman knocked on Anna's cubicle wall. She was dressed in ill-fitting clothes that had clearly been borrowed for the interview, clutching a manila folder like a lifeline. "Excuse me," she said, "are you the one who helps with resumes?" Anna looked up from her computer. She'd been reviewing applications for the company's new apprenticeship program. "I can try to help. What's your name?" "Sophia. I'm applying for the receptionist position. I know I don't have much experience, but—" Anna gestured to the chair beside her desk. "Why don't you sit down and show me what you've got?" Sophia opened the folder with nervous fingers and pulled out a single sheet of paper. The resume was typed, but not formatted well. The experience section was short, but not empty. Anna read it once, then looked up at Sophia. "Tell me about the babysitting." "It's just babysitting, nothing professional." "How many children did you watch?" "Usually 3, sometimes 4 if their cousins came over." "Ages?" 2 to 10. Anna circled that section. "Managing multiple children with different needs, different ages, different personalities. That's logistics and multitasking under pressure. How long did you do this?" 3 years, same family. That's client retention and trust. Did you help them with homework?" "Yes, but educational support. Did you prepare meals?" "Simple stuff. Meal. Planning and preparation. Did you handle emergencies?" Sophia's eyes widened slightly. "Once I had to take the youngest to urgent care when he fell and cut his head. I called his mom, drove him there, stayed until she arrived. Crisis management and decision-making under pressure." Anna looked at Sophia directly. "You don't have a little experience. You have exactly the right experience. You just need to learn how to talk about it." An hour later, Sophia left with a completely rewritten resume that told the story of a young woman with proven ability to manage complex situations, work independently, and build lasting professional relationships. She got the job. At the end of that week, Anna was packing up her desk when Daniel appeared beside her cubicle. "How was your day?" he asked. "Good. Helped a young woman see herself more clearly." "She's lucky to have found you," Anna smiled. "I think your mother would say we're all lucky when we find someone willing to teach us how to spell our own names." Daniel nodded. "I think she would say that." They stood there for a moment, in the quiet space between one day ending and another beginning. Around them, the office settled into evening stillness. Cleaning crews would arrive soon. The building would empty except for security guards and the distant hum of servers. But tomorrow, people would return. They'd sit at desks and answer phones and solve problems and dream of better things. And some of them would stop by Anna's cubicle, looking for help, seeing themselves clearly, looking for someone to teach them how to spell their own names. Just like Anna had looked all those years ago, in a textile factory where the air was thick, with cotton dust and possibility, just like Sophia had looked that morning, with a resume that didn't yet know its own worth. And Anna would be there, ready to help them write their stories. One letter at a time, one name at a time, one life at a time, the way Evelyn had taught her, the way it was always meant to be done. Have you ever met someone who could see your potential before you saw it yourself? Or maybe you've been the person sitting across from Anna, clutching a resume that didn't feel like enough, wondering if anyone would give you a chance. Tell me your story in the comments. I read every single one. If Anna's journey reminded you of someone who believed in you when you couldn't believe in yourself, hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow. And if you want more stories about the quiet heroes who change lives one person at a time, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you never miss a new one. Share this with someone who's ever felt overlooked or underestimated. Sometimes we all need reminding that our stories matter. Our next story is already waiting for you. Click it now, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place.